7 or 8 years ago, there was a trend in the CSGO community called FIXCSGO. Many of you probably remember this. It was an entire movement of influential, mostly Russian-speaking people that raised the issue of cheating in CSGO at the time. This trend was started through a bunch of videos from Russian YouTubers called Gaver, Justie, F1 and others, and the videos explain just how bad VAC really is. At the time, these videos explained what VAC is, how it works, and just how easy it was to bypass it. These videos were made primarily because while vanilla matchmaking provided a more casual side of playing and people there weren't taking games too seriously, at the same time, if you would play non-prime CSGO, you would most likely meet at least one cheater in yours or the opposing team. I think Anomaly in a video of his at the time said that he was playing Office on a global elite rank and he got matched against cheaters where he just said you play on a global elite without a prime account, so what do you expect? And that's where we come back to Russian YouTubers. The aforementioned Russian YouTubers have played a couple of games in a row during one day whilst blatantly cheating, spin botting, shooting through walls and so on, and in the span of 2 weeks, neither of them have gotten VAC or Overwatch banned. At the same time, one of them had a FACEIT anti-cheat running. FACEIT anti-cheat detects the cheat and promptly banned his account. In other words, back in the day, the anti-cheat available in third-party matchmaking services such as FACEIT and ESEA was better than that in the original matchmaking itself. At the same time, those who would Google VAC from the territory of the Russian Federation would also be recommended an article in Russian Wikipedia that said VAC was the worst invention in Valve's history, which is amusing to say the least. After these Russian YouTubers have made videos on the subject, many hoped for a change. There were even numerous petitions on the subject with hundreds of thousands of signatures, and changes were implemented, but they never really led anywhere. These Russian YouTubers had a goal in mind. They have blatantly cheated in a couple of games to show the community and the developers of CSGO what is going on so that the problem could be easily fixed and forgotten about. No matter what platform they have used or how hard they have tried though, there were no visible results. However, that doesn't mean that things are not changing. CS2 implemented VACnet, which is an anti-cheat platform based on deep learning to put an end to cheaters in the CS2 scene. VACnet studies the Overwatch part of CS2 and learns the intricacies that give cheaters away. Once a human decision is made on Overwatch, VACnet automatically learns and is able to continue monitoring the games to detect new cheaters. Thanks to VACnet, there are fewer and fewer cheaters playing CS2 and the developers are finally learning from their mistakes when developing VAC. This deep learning based anti-cheat is not without problems either, and one of them is that the software needs powerful dedicated hardware. However, with a company of Valve's size, these problems can be easily squashed. And once they are squashed, CS2 will become a better place for everyone around. I hope that this video has been informational and useful. Subscribe to hear more stories about the ancient world of CS, and until next time.